Welcome to share with us the landscapes where we can see the twilight of stereotypes, thanks to SWOT's program. Listen, please, some feminine voices who develop some living example of what are compassion, non-violence, assertiveness, and resilience. Thanks to speakers to promote human rights, values, non-discrimination, equity, and social inclusion. And just a rule to begin. If you have a question during the webinar, write them on the discussion forum, and we'll develop them after the 3 conferences. A lot of thanks, Christina, to manage the final part of the webinar. And Christina, you want to add something, or it's okay like that?
Yes, thank you, Gilles. Good afternoon to everyone. As regards possible questions to our speakers or remarks about the topic under discussion today, I kindly ask everyone to use the chat box, and the question time is set to be at the end of the webinar, approximately at 2:10 p.m. And it will be my duty collecting the question and involve the speakers accordingly. So, thank you. Please, Gilles.
Thank you, Christina. So, we are very pleased to welcome Marion. If Marion came, if you agree, Marion will present herself. So I'm very pleased to exchange with her about Pierre de Coubertin committee from South Africa and Europe and so on. And I think it's a good opportunity to exchange something together today. And I'm very pleased to welcome you in this webinar. And please, Marion.
Thank you, Gilles. It's wonderful to have me here. Thank you so much for the invitation. Hello, everybody. My name is Marion, and I'm online from very cold Cape Town. We have snow on the mountain, and yeah, but warm regards, and a very interesting topic, I think, from all angles today. I'm the UNESCO Chair for Sport Development and Peace at the University of the Western Cape, and as Gilles said, the President of the South African Pierre de Coubertin Committee. And my passion is sport development, peace, and also the role of women, and especially mothers and grandmothers. So my presentation today is actually a question: where do we come from? The role of mothers and grandmothers. And it started off by me becoming a mother very late in life, at the age of 40, as a sports person. And my chancellor of the university was Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who was the Nobel Peace Prize winner. And he was very interested in sport. So one day I went there and I said, Archbishop, what did your mother do for you to become the person that you are today? And he said, sit down, I have to tell you about my mom. So that has caught me, and everybody knows Nelson Mandela or Pierre de Coubertin or Michael Phelps or Usain Bolt, but nobody knows the name of their mothers. And South Africa is the highest rape rate country in the world, the most unequal country in the world. And most of the people that carry our community forwards are mothers and grandmothers. And nobody speaks about them. And so I thought I'd dedicate my presentation to them, to the role of mothers and grandmothers, and especially also how they assisted our sports people, even the Olympians. So I have a small video about a project that we're doing in South Africa, but now also in Africa, and hopefully with all your input globally. It's called Umama, which is the Xhosa word for mother. And yeah, how does it relate to sport? So Alessandro, I'd like to start with a small video for everybody. With Desmond Tutu's daughter, Thandi, speaking.
Sport is such an equalizer, particularly for our children. Sport gives them something to dream of being.
Chester Williams is a former South African rugby player, best known as the star winger of the South African national Springbok team that won the 1995 Rugby World Cup against New Zealand, their first post-apartheid win. He tells us how his mother helped him.
No one believed in me as an individual when it comes to the rugby field. I was always deemed to be too small, could not kick, could not pass. But my mother was the one that always inspired me to be where I am today, because she was saying, doesn't matter what they say, I believe in you and I know you're going to be successful one day. When it comes to excellence, you know, we train hard, and honestly, once you achieve it, you see the rewards in the end of all the training you've done. The most important thing for friendship is trust, the respect and the communication. The Olympic values believe in.
Not every child is going to be a gold medalist, but every child can have respect and care for their body and integrity of spirit and sportsmanship.
Ilana Meyer is a South African former long-distance runner and Olympic medalist. She talks about what she received from her mother.
My mom was definitely one of the most inspirational people in my life. Her absolute unconditional love that she had, not only for me, but for everybody. She was there, good eyes, bad eyes. Her unconditional love really gave me to be brave, to really become the person that I'm meant to be, to try new things, not to be scared of failing.
What sport does, it gives you the characteristics that will help you along in life and help you to be a full human being. You don't have to be the greatest sports person, but you can have sporting values, and that makes you the greatest person.
Okay, can everybody see my screen? Yeah, so that was the voice of Archbishop Tutu's daughter Thandi, and yeah, I also wanted to say I do not want to disregard fathers, but in our country we have a lot of absent fathers, and because of the violence, domestic violence rate, and of the women really trying their best as often single mothers, the presentation is focused in terms of where we come from on the role of mothers and grandmothers. But I know that a lot of fathers are better mothers, or equally so. So I do not want to, and I want to also mention that in the beginning. So, oops. Okay, so I actually asked the question, who was it that raised the people that we actually admire, that we think are heroes of sport, are big sports people, famous for their past and their present, and we do not know often who raised them and with what values. And I remember when I've lived now in South Africa for 33 years, and I remember my parents told me before I left, you always have to know where you come from in order to know where you're going. So looking back and before you look into the future is very important. So throughout the history, we have had women that stood up, not only for sport, but that fought back, and they overcome and broke down barriers that were imposed on them for stereotypes and societal expectations. And they have instilled those values in their children. And in doing that, they've paved the way for the future generation to stand up, to continue the fight of equality and for a more peaceful world. But not many of those women are spoken about. They have been not included in the history, including in the history of sport and the Olympic world. So with this particular presentation, I really would like to create awareness for a very special project, and also advocacy in conversations, sharing the role and the contributions of mothers and grandmothers, of sportsmen and women, as a very unique cross-cultural intergenerational teaching and learning opportunity, because it is a topic that unites us. There are a lot of topics in the world that divide us, but this is a topic that unites us. So originally, I had interviewed people it was not even for a book, it was for my own knowledge, and then it was short stories coming for a book, so it was the Umama concept, and then we did three documentaries in terms of storytelling, where national leaders and politicians, musicians and artists shared their experiences and the roles that their mother played. And it was big names. It was the Mandela family, the Tutu family, Miriam Makeba, then you heard the two, but also Dr. Khumalo and other Olympians, soccer stars, and everybody was really, really willing immediately to share a story about their mother and what their mother instilled in them in terms of values and assisted them where they are today. So now we are in the second phase, where Umama Sport is the second phase, and we want to record more stories internationally of sportsmen and women, of Olympians, of coaches, of educators, women and girl athletes, about the role their mother played in their sporting lives. So I'd like to speak a little bit in the context where we are working in terms of sport development and peace, and then also in terms of the role models and in terms of the values that we hold dear. How are they transformed, and where do we go from where we are at the moment? Just for clarifications, when we talk about sport, we actually understand all forms of sport, and also the important one that every sport and physical education is a fundamental right to all, to understand that. And that was already prescribed in UNESCO 1978 in the Article 1. Also, in terms of when I speak of development, it should be understood as a process of growth and advancement, but to nobody's expense. And that is the important part. Development is at no one else's expense. And sport and development, it should not be confused with sport development, which is development of the code of the sport, or sport for development. Sport and development looks actually as both sides, because there can also be a very negative side of sport in terms of safeguarding what we had, sexual harassment, corruption, and so on. And so that field falls actually in the sport and development, not sport for development sphere. When we talk about peace, that is a very important topic in our country, and when we understand peace not as necessarily the war and the peace, but talking about it in terms of a holistic concept. So peace for me and peace for us here is actually the physical safety, so my physical peace. It is my mental peace. It is my emotional peace, and it's my spiritual peace. And peace, as I understand it, is only when there is a reconstruction of people and places, when we reconcile in our relationship and we actually resolve the issues and animosities. Otherwise, we have a negative peace, which is not sustainable. Social inclusion is nothing about us without us. And the whole peace building and reconciliation can be taken forward, as you all know, through sport as a non-violent strategy and way of communication. So that's just in terms of the introduction, and also the fields where we're working with the SDGs, mostly around SDG 3, 4, 5, 8, 12. More about also 10, obviously, the inequalities, but also not to forget number 13, climate action, 16 and 17, and I often say I would have started the SDGs with number 17 as first, because partnership for the goals comes last, but without partnership, we cannot actually do any of the others, but it comes at the very end in 16, obviously. So when we look at the SDGs, it is actually our aim, or should be, that we want to transform the world. It was the MDGs first, now it is the SDGs. But what is important for all of us is that sport is seen as an enabler in all the documentation that we have, whether it's Olympic Agenda 2020+5, whether it's the African Union Agenda, or whether it's any kind of global or other kind of documentation, more and more seen as an enabler of sustainable development. These are role models for sport and peace. The father of the Olympics, and then in terms of South Africa, the father of our democracy and the peace builder, Nelson Mandela, also Nobel Peace Prize winner. These are nurturers of those men, namely their mothers. When Pierre de Coubertin spoke about, and that was 1894, about Olympic truth and what he understands, the definition that he had actually was that war happens in his mind because there are misunderstandings between peoples. They will not achieve peace until their prejudice that separates the different races are overcome. And he says what better means is there to achieve this goal than regular friendly encounters of all youth, of all countries, to compare their strength and motor talents. So he says wars happens because there are misunderstandings of peoples. Nelson Mandela, very, very similar, but more than a decade after, the world continues to be plagued by conflict, violence, and war. And he added his voice to those calling on all nations of the world to cease hostilities during the Olympic Games, and then obviously also believe afterwards. But he said we must believe that as rational beings, it is eminently possible to settle our differences peacefully and through negotiations. Now, unfortunately, we learn that we do not learn. Where we look at our world now, we really learn that we do not learn. But interestingly, the mothers of those men were very influential in their lives, and people do not know that. Pierre de Coubertin said about his mother, I was advanced in history, especially in Roman history. My mother, who gave me lessons, which her tenderness perhaps rendered too easy, possessed these matters on her fingertips. His mother was highly educated and studied alongside her brothers and even competed in sport with them. So he makes very clear that his mother instilled the passion for history and obviously also for sport in his mind at a very early age. In terms of Nelson Mandela's mom, not many people have seen them. And I was privileged to actually get letters out of prison that he wrote to his sister. He said, my mother and I never talked very much, but did not need to. I never doubted her love or questioned her support. She was a Pondo princess, and she mobilized the whole clan to fight the British. And that's why she was deported back to Pondoland by the British, because she was too fierce of a fighter. And he actually said, he wrote to his sister out of prison, I miss Mom with all her kindness and modesty. I thought I loved her when she lived, but it's only now that she's gone that I think I could have spent more time to make her comfortable and happy. You know what I owe her, but how and what could a prisoner repay debts owed to a deceased? So these women had an immense influence on the men that we're talking about. So when we look at our responsibility, we have a responsibility on an individual level, on a communal level, and on a national level. And obviously on a global level, because more and more stakeholders identified sport as a vehicle to contribute to diversity, conflict resolution, respect for diversity, reconciliation, and so on. We have actually learned that cultures that survive the ages have a very strong sense of values that they have adhered to and adopted to meet new challenges. So when we look across the ages, actually, the importance of values in education and sport always comes up, especially with women and mothers. Some of those mothers have never gone to school, but they always want to have the best education for their children. In terms of values, even Aristotle said that holistic education for a society of happy and productive individuals, education of the whole person is important, but also happiness. And happiness depends again on acquiring a moral character. And that's where the values come in again, the virtues, courage, generosity, he says, justice, friendship, and citizenship. And the fundamental principle of Olympism is not to win the gold medal, is not to only have the first prize. It always has been to place sport in the service of a harmonious development of humankind with a view to promote a peaceful society and preservation of human dignity. Nowadays, it has gone all different directions in terms of money and media rights and so on. But deep down, the essence has always been the harmonious development of humankind. The Olympic values, there are different values. We have universal values, we have Olympic values, and we have Paralympic values. So respect is one that is under the first three. It's respect for yourself, but also respect for others, and obviously respect for diversity. Fair play in sport and in life, on the field and off the field. Friendship, how to understand each other despite differences. Joy of effort and pursuit of excellence. But now excellence is to give the best that you can be. Not the best in terms of a gold medal, but the best that you can be. When you tell your kids when they come home with a mark, is that really the best that you could do? And the Paralympic values, not to forget those, are people as role models, the vision, courage, determination, patience, inspiration, and equality. When we look at universal values, and that is what Aristotle said, but we also experience that. There are different ones from the East and the West, there are traditional ones, but there are core values such as love, forgiveness, honesty, commitment, respect, responsibility, and service. And the question is, where do we learn them? And how do we learn them? And these are the values that are so necessary in today's society. So where do our values come from? Vinita Ricci said, values-based education is actually the training of the heart. It consists of the right feelings, of emotions, of values and ethics, but also a cognitive component. So it promotes critical thinking, but also creative thinking and responsible behavior. And that develops empathy, interpersonal skills, and the sensitivity to the good. And that's where we struggle. That's where we struggle in 2023. We cannot forget that the concept of development, sport, and peace also depends on where we find ourselves, in which cultural context we grow up. And that refers also to our athletes, to the coaches, to our teachers, and to everybody involved in sport. An example is, for example, the word peace, pax. In the Western world, peace comes from the Latin word pax. If you ask somebody in the Western world, in the global North, what peace is, they will say it's a constructual relationship. It implies mutual recognition. If you ask somebody in Africa what peace means, it's a Xhosa word for peace is uxolo. They will say peace is an inner state of tranquility, an atmosphere of peace, but it means also asking for forgiveness. So the whole tool for forgiveness, sport was used, as you know, in 1995, 1994 onwards, and 5 by Nelson Mandela in that regard. So it's a very different understanding of peace where we find ourselves. But our collective values as cultures and society ground and guide us in the world. So what is our legacy? What are our values? I believe in stories, and everybody has a story to tell. And the roles, as I said in the beginning, of mothers and grandmothers is often neglected in those stories. Therefore, we try to capture those stories, the courage and endurance and the triumphs and the love of mothers that were an inspiration of all of us, where we find ourselves now. So here are people that I'm sure you all know. Caster Semenya. She was asked actually at an interview at the Botswana Women's Conference, and she said without her mother, she would never be where she is today. Ashwin Williams, he played last night in the Rugby Open rugby match of South Africa. He actually said that he was discovered as a Springbok, as a national player. And those who know think he was a Springbok but he came from a life of gangsterism, of drugs, of crime. And these were not good years for him. But what people didn't know is that he had never met his father until he was out of school. And he was a product, he says, of the love, the faith, and the strength of his mother and his grandmother. The same goes for Siya Kolisi, who actually lost his mom when he was 16 and who grew up with his grandmother. The Paralympian Natalie du Toit would not have been an Olympian without her mother's input. But also internationally, Michael Phelps. Debbie Phelps said at the age of 7, he actually hating to get his face wet. And she's very instrumental and still has been very instrumental in his life. And he's the Olympian with the most medals ever won in Olympic Games. And then you all know Usain Bolt, who also has a very, very close relationship with his mom and encouraging him everywhere and being with him wherever he goes and performs. So I'd like to actually join this group of people that looking at sports storytelling initiatives. We want to record Olympians and coaches and educators about the role that their mothers play. And it will be a series of video programs and written stories in different countries with different languages. So those of you who are interested, please contact us in that regard. It will actually not only bring the women in the foreground, but it also will be used to advocate and for enhanced gender equity and protection of the safety of women, because it's the awareness. What do those women stand for? Whose mothers are they? Whose sisters are they? So when we educate in terms of the Olympic movement, we want to educate young people through sport in the spirit of better understanding between each other and also helping to build a better and more peaceful world. And where we actually struggle at the moment is that we are threatened by a very crass materialism. That's according to Nelson Mandela, and a pursuit of instant gratification, and I have a 14-year-old. So if it doesn't happen now, it's too late. So one of the challenges of our time is actually to reinstill the consciousness of young people, especially that sense of human solidarity, of being in the world for one another and because of one another. So how do we transfer that? These are the opportunities. As a UNESCO chair, we're working in strategic advice and advocacy. We work in policy and social profiling. We work a lot in monitoring and evaluation of our programs, in conferences, but we definitely work a lot in values transfer for youth leadership and mentoring. And one of the tools is the storytelling of Umama Sport. So to develop a collection of global stories of mothers and athletes is actually the goal. And that includes writing courses in our communities. It includes social media. It includes international cases and stories on women and girls, safeguarding in that regard, and advocating and protection of the safety of women. So it will be a unique collaborative approach like SDG number 17 amongst global partners and networks to really look at the priority in line with the SDGs, but also in line with the other policies that we have at the moment, Olympic Agenda, UN Vision 2030, but also the African Union Agenda 2063. So the intention is not to create any laureates or any odes, but rather the documentaries and the cases should be seen as a collection of stories which speak to all of us directly. We have a wonderful multicultural society and a world about universal phenomenon of mothers and grandmothers. And what they mean of us today is that's what we want to hear. Those stories we want to hear because they reflect values. They reflect the importance in our society today. And we need to have those conversations with sport leaders, with parents, with UN, with IOC, but also with teachers and educators and mentors, re-emphasizing important values which may have been neglected. So the stories aim at creating public awareness about the mothers, but motivating viewers and readers to contribute to a better world where the values and women are appreciated and respected. And the stories are a tool for values-based education. So the hope is to take time to reflect on what it means today to be a part of something bigger and something good. Beneficiaries will be sportsmen and women, it will be government, it will be the NGO sector and international partners, it will be academics and students that can use those stories for research. They can be used in prisons, in schools, and we have actually done writing workshops in prisons already with women and young girls in conflict areas. So where do we go from here? To conclude, sport are a reflection of any society's success stories and its miseries, its economic challenges, its values. How we play part as working in the field of sport and development, and gender equity and peace need not be constrained as a reflection of what it is at the moment, because what it is at the moment is not good enough. For sports to be transformative, for sports to be positive, a positive force promoting development and social inclusion, gender equity, and everything that you will hear about in peace within and between individual and communities. The programs and the activities we create wherever we are must be a reflection of where we want to go, of who we want to be as people, as a nation, and a global citizen. And those decisions remain up to us. So I'd like to close with Nelson Mandela's, let us move forward with vision, with courage, and with determination, because we educate for empowerment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marion. Thank you to insert in the landscapes of the twilight of stereotypes two fundamental aspects of peace, what I'm calling inner peace or perhaps spiritual peace, and other what I'm calling transcultural peace. So thank you for this open aspect. And thank you for the invitation to develop together Umama Sport Stories. And I think that during the discussion after, at the end of the webinar, we can develop something to allow this work together and how to be stronger together. So lot of thanks, Marion. And I propose now to give the voice to Carme. And perhaps, Christina, it's okay for you? Yeah?
Yes, for sure.
Just to remind that if you have comments to insert in the discussion, don't hesitate. And Christina will, at the end of the webinar, synthesis with you all comments and all questions. So now we are hearing Carme. So Carme is not with us because in Costa Rica is not the right time perhaps to be present, but we have two eminent colleagues from UEFA Foundations who know this initiative developed by Carme. So Alexandro, before insert the video, Karine, do you want present just shortly the connection between UEFA Foundation and Carme?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Gilles. So as Gilles just said, unfortunately, Carme can't be there today with us because of the time in Costa Rica now. It's 2 or 3 a.m., I think, in the morning. And so she made a little video for us. So the link with the UEFA Foundation for Children is Gilles, which is the project and also actually the organization, the foundation. Carme is the director and founder of that organization based in Costa Rica, working really to promote women empowerment. And it is one of our partners as the foundation, UEFA Foundation for Children is actually financing the project. So this is the link with us, and we're very proud actually to present that project that is really, as you will see from the video and from the message from Carmen, working in really remote area in Costa Rica with indigenous women.
Thank you, Karine. And now I invite you to travel in Costa Rica with Carme. Thank you, Alexandro.
Bienvenidos.
Bienvenidas.
Bashkina Karabi.
Hello, I'm Carmen Selleras Campo, and I'm the creator and director of Gilles. Gilles Foundation, whose initials mean gender, pride, freedom, and empowerment of women in society, is the place where football is synonymous with freedom. We use football as the most powerful tool for female empowerment. Our goals are not scored when the ball enters the net, but our goals are measured by the reduction in the number of teenage mothers, by the reduction of improper relationships, rapes, domestic violence, and the increase in girls finishing compulsory education entering university, working for what they want, and thus breaking the cycles of poverty through football empowerment that we work on and off the soccer fields. Since 2019, Gilles has been working in an innovative methodology under a gender approach around two axes, sport and psychosocial. And our methodology, which started in the former settlement called Acarpio, after 3 years in 2022 continues to an indigenous territory by the financial support from UEFA Foundation for Children. The project called Aracarawa, which means woman in the Cabécar indigenous language, it has been a revolutionary bet. During 2 years, it is intended to form a group of indigenous girls and adolescents from 5 communities to be the future promoters of sport for peace in their territories, where historically only men played, all by adapting the Gilles methodology to their indigenous worldview. What does that mean? It means creating your own football from your own voice, from your own belief. For us as professionals, it is to understand and respect if they want to play barefoot, but knowing that in the big leagues and in the big stadiums, they play with soccer cleats. That's why we can reach an agreement to play half part of the match barefoot and half part with cleats. Also, the theme of religion, of God, Sibu as they call it, being able to respect their spirituality and their connection to their belief while working with them in issues such as sexual diversity or gender identity, aspects that from a traditional religious prism can mean the worst. All this has been very challenging because sometimes it has been wrongly pointed out to us as a gender ideology, with some of the players being removed from Gilles for deciding who they want to love. That is why working with families and with churches has been very, very important in this project. Always reviewing our practices and positions so as not to fall into neocolonialism. It has been very, very important and a daily work. With no hesitation, one of the greatest achievements has been to support a group of many girls and adolescents in communities, sometimes with less than 100 inhabitants, who come to our camps every month and know that they can choose how to play soccer. But above all, get to know and defend their rights as girls to choose their future, a future and present free of violence. Lastly, in Gilles, we're eternally grateful to UEFA Foundation for Children, since they has not only financed the Indigenous project, but also our project Fields of Diversity, which from 2023 to 2025, we will be working on tolerance of sexual, bodily, and ethnic racial diversity in public educational centers. And we hope, with great hope, that they will also support us in our last funding application for the project called Fields of Freedom, where, among many things, we will take a delegation of Gilles players from areas at social risk to the French Olympics at Festival 24 in Paris. What a dream! Thank you very much for attention, because if you are listening to me speaking, it is because you know the incredible power that the ball has to change the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, UEFA Foundation, to support Gilles. I think that during discussion we can give the voices to Karine and Urs if you want complete some information. So thank you to travel in Costa Rica with us. And now we are coming back in Africa with Valérie, and also in Europe with Leonie, to have the three sides of this webinar about the Twilight of Stereotypes. And if you want, Valérie and Leonie, you can take place in this webinar as you want, and with the wonderful help from Alessandro, if you have some video to insert.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gilles, and for the invitation. And we are also happy to share with us, especially my stories through this topic, which is living with a purpose. So before we go through the video, my name is Amélie Valérie Atisso. I'm Paralympic athlete and in basketball, table tennis, and also lawn tennis in wheelchair. I'm also the member of Paralympic, Togo Paralympic Committee, and also facilitator of the community of women leaders of Francophone Africa. So I'm Togolese, I'm single and with children. I love sport, I love also children, and I love disease. So let us see this small video before we go through the presentation. Thank you.
Je suis Atisso Amélie Valérie, joueuse de tennis de table en fauteuil roulant. Et nous sommes ici dans la salle de tennis de table où nous nous entraînons avec les enfants, les tout petits enfants de 3 à 10 ans. Et c'est un projet de SWOST-ILEPS ping-pong que nous avons mis en place pour les enfants du quartier, pour que les enfants, à travers notre discipline, puissent glorifier le nom du Seigneur. Nous nous entraînons tous les samedis de 9h à 11h.
Je m'appelle Nadia Sandou Yanina, je suis au CE2, j'ai 8 ans. Aujourd'hui, on est venu pour jouer le tennis, et puis on a appris comment jouer le tennis, et puis on a fait le coudre, et puis on a fait le jeu de concentration. Je suis à 5 ans. Et on a fait le concentration, et on a aussi joué le jeu. On a fait le tennis de table, et on a joué, et on a et
Thank you so much, Alessandro, for the video. So I'm going to present in French, and Leonie will be our translator. So ma perception de la vie a changé pour la première fois. où j'étais exposée au parasport.
So Amelie's life has changed drastically for the first time when she was exposed to parasport. It was wheelchair basketball.
J'ai découvert alors un avenir plein. J'ai découvert plein d'avenirs. Il y avait de l'espoir dans mon avenir.
And this gave her hope for her future.
Alors, quel était mon objectif? C'est de devenir une femme totalement indépendante et épanouie.
Because her life goal was to become an independent and fulfilled woman.
Mais quand je retourne en arrière, pendant toutes ces années, dans les années 86, où j'étais complètement paralysée à cause de la maladie que nous appelons poliomyélite.
So she was paralyzed in 1986 because of a disease called poliomyelitis.
Où déjà à 3 ans, je marchais, je courais comme tous les autres enfants, mais cette maladie m'a paralysée.
So before that, she was walking and dancing like any other child, but this disease has paralyzed her.
J'ai suivi des rééducations et ce que je me rappelais, c'est ma maman qui me mettait dans le trou, hein, l'histoire de me tenir debout, d'avoir l'équilibre dans les hanches.
So she did a lot of different treatments, and one of the goals was to help her to sit upright. And one of the things they did in Togo was to sit her into a hole that was up to her hips, and which helped her to be able to sit.
Parce que physiquement, il n'y avait pas l'espoir. J'avais tellement honte de moi-même. Et en voyant le regard des autres sur moi, ça me paralysait encore plus.
So from a physical point of view, there is no hope of healing, of being able to walk. But what paralyzed her even more was the pitiful stares of people that looked at her, and she asked herself, why me? Why has this happened to me? And this has haunted her for many, many years.
Mais quelque chose de très important, le sport est un instrument très puissant qui a changé ma mentalité.
But sport is such a powerful instrument, and it changed her way of thinking.
Et quand je combine le sport et la foi, les deux viennent transformer ma vie.
And this added to her faith has helped her and has completely changed her life.
Cette combinaison m'a permis de voir le handicap comme une opportunité de m'affirmer en tant que femme entièrement à part entière.
And this combination of her sport and her faith has made her disability, and it transformed it into an opportunity to do something with her life as a woman with a disability.
Je peux confirmer aujourd'hui que Dieu n'a pas fait d'erreur parce que il était en me rappelant de pourquoi qui me tourmentait. Je me dis aujourd'hui que le handicap est une opportunité.
So for her, she's convinced that God did not a mistake when she was paralyzed. She's convinced that this is an opportunity for her and a way that she can empower other people.
Aujourd'hui, à cause de ce handicap, c'est à cause de cet handicap que je me retrouve dans le Comité national olympique Togo.
And it is because of this disability that she has that she is now part of the National Olympic Committee in Togo.
Merci à tous ceux qui ont cru en ces dons et talents que Dieu a mis en moi. Et merci au président du Comité national olympique Togo.
And she's thanking everyone that has had faith in her and has supported her on this journey, especially to the president of the Olympic Committee of Togo.
Le monde du sport est une grande plateforme d'expression des dons et des talents que Dieu a mis en chacun de nous et aussi d'exprimer notre leadership en tant que femme handicapée.
And the world of sport is a great platform to show those gifts and talents that God has put in each one of us. And it is also a way for her to show leadership skills as a disabled woman.
Je me rappelle, avant d'avoir mon bac, après mon bac, j'avais voulu continuer mes études en gestion, mais beaucoup de gens m'ont découragée parce qu'ils se disent que au campus, c'est la Chine populaire, quoi. Dans notre faculté, il y avait plus de 1000 étudiants qui viennent pour suivre les cours. Et donc, on m'a découragée parce que tout simplement, j'étais en situation de handicap.
So when she finished high school and she wanted to go to university, she wanted to continue studying management, and people there told her, this is way too big for you. It's like an assembly line. There are so many people that go through this university every day. There's no way that you can keep up, and they have discouraged her a lot just because she has a disability.
Mais ce que je sais, c'est que j'avais un objectif bien précis dans ma tête, devenir une femme indépendante. Ce qui m'a poussée à avoir la détermination, à avoir la persévérance et l'obéissance. Et mon identité en Christ également m'ont permis à avoir la réussite aujourd'hui.
But she had the goal in mind to be an independent woman, and this gave her the determination and the perseverance and also the obedience and the commitment, as well as her identity in her faith in Christ. And this was ultimately the key to her success, because it allowed her to be in a position and to show her her capability as a woman with a disability in the world of sports, but also on a professional level.
Voilà, c'est ce qui m'a permis de me positionner aujourd'hui en tant que femme dans le monde du sport et sur le plan professionnel. Aujourd'hui, je suis gestionnaire des ressources humaines à Chocotogo, l'entreprise qui produit du chocolat bio au Togo.
This has positioned her in the sports environment as well as in the work environment. She's also human resources manager at a chocolate factory in Togo.
J'ai aussi découvert une formidable communauté de femmes leaders de l'Afrique francophone qui utilisent le sport et les jeux pour pouvoir éduquer.
And this has also brought her in contact with many women and a movement of women from French-speaking Africa that use sports and games in order to educate children.
Cette communauté est née en plein Covid, où tout était arrêté, où tout était confiné. Cette communauté est née.
So this community was born during COVID, when everything was confined, when the borders was closed, and they organized an online conference by Zoom and saw more than 500 women register, and they also have a big platform now with women all over French-speaking Africa.
Donc la vision était de faire de toutes les femmes de l'Afrique francophone des femmes émergées, engagées, occupant des postes de prise de décision, des femmes épanouies dans leur foyer, dans leur communauté et au travers le sport et les jeux.
So the goal of this community is to bring women together to be independent and empowered, and to live out this in their household, in their villages, and also to educate their children in a way to make them be independent people.
Nous savons que quand la femme est épanouie, c'est toute la famille et le mari et les enfants et toute la communauté est bien posée.
Because they see the woman truly as the base of the family, because she takes care of her children, of her husband, and they say that when the woman has found her role and really understands that she is fulfilled and that she is independent and empowered, then she will influence her whole family and also her community.
Alors nos objectifs ont été d'abord de créer un réseau de femmes des femmes leaders de l'Afrique francophone, les équiper afin qu'elles deviennent des femmes influentes, et les faire émerger en tant que femmes dans leur famille, dans leur communauté, et aussi de bâtir une communauté forte de femmes qui vont se lever pour construire notre Afrique.
So the objectives of this group is to create a network of women leaders in the different French-speaking countries in Africa, and to equip women to have influence over the community around them, but also to have regional women leaders in their families, in their countries, and in their communities, and ultimately to build a strong community between those women leaders.
Comment nous arrivons à Que faisons-nous? Qu'est-ce que nous faisons au sein de cette communauté? D'abord, nous travaillons sur la femme en tant qu'individu. Donc, comme je le disais, quand la femme est épanouie, toute la famille est épanouie. Ensuite, nous travaillons en tant que communauté. La femme, elle seule, ne peut pas aller. Elle se met en communauté pour ensemble, avec leurs forces, construire. Et ensuite, cette communauté se met en réseau qui forme aujourd'hui la communauté des femmes leaders de l'Afrique francophone.
So what are they doing? They are working on three main axes. One is to help women to be fulfilled and independent. And then the second one is to form a community of leaders, and then to network those communities to form a bigger network all over Francophone Africa.
Comment nous y arrivons? D'abord, nous faisons les face-à-face, les conférences régionales, nationales, où nous nous voyons face à face, nous nous touchons au travers des sports et les jeux que nous utilisons. Nous nous équipons pour aller encore auprès d'autres femmes qui n'ont pas cette opportunité de les aider à pouvoir s'épanouir. Et nous faisons aussi des formations en ligne par Zoom.
So how do they do this? They organize national and regional conferences where they use sport and games to show those women how to use those tools in their own contexts, and also to encourage new women that have joined. And also they offer weekly online meetings to share experiences and have an opportunity for the women to speak about what they have achieved in their context. And then there's also online trainings to build capacity and help them to use different tools like sport and games to influence their communities and their families in a positive way.
Alors, nos perspectives aujourd'hui, c'est de créer une école de facilitation des femmes émergentes. Nous savons que les femmes aujourd'hui ont besoin de s'affirmer. Nous avons beaucoup des hommes qui sont des facilitateurs, mais peu de femmes se lèvent pour faciliter, pour aller, pour enseigner. Donc, notre objectif, c'est de mettre cette école pour pouvoir permettre aux femmes de s'affirmer, de devenir des facilitateurs auprès d'autres femmes.
So their goal is to create a facilitation school for emerging women leaders and to help these women to truly take on roles of responsibility and of leadership, because this is something that is lacking in French-speaking Africa. There is many women that are not used to those roles, or that are that they don't have the understanding of how important their role can be, and they would like to empower more people, more women to take on leadership roles.
Alors, d'autres perspectives en tant qu'athlète, c'est non seulement moi-même je fais le basketball, mais aussi j'investis dans la vie des enfants pour qu'ils deviennent des champions. Donc, la perspective aujourd'hui, c'est de créer une communauté de champions en ping-pong pour les enfants, pour leur permettre de s'épanouir en tant qu'enfants, et aussi de créer une génération future des leaders champions qui vont, dans 8 ans, participer aux Jeux Australie 2032.
So the goal of these kids hubs that we've seen in the videos is not only to teach children skills in table tennis or other sports, but it's truly to help them be champions in life and to invest in their lives. It is the goal to build a community of table tennis champions, and then also to empower them to be leaders in the 4 economic regions of Togo, and to really impact the people around them in a positive way. And the goal is also to participate in the Olympic Games in Australia in 2032, as well as participating in national and regional championships.
La plus grande difficulté aujourd'hui, c'est de pouvoir manager et le travail et le sport, et mes séances d'entraînement en tant que para-athlète, mais aussi les séances d'entraînement avec les enfants. Donc, c'est un challenge aujourd'hui que je suis en train de travailler dessus, mais aussi faire la multiplication de ces clubs des enfants dans tous les villes et villages de notre pays, le Togo, pour pouvoir permettre aux enfants vraiment à bas âge de développer déjà leurs dons et leurs talents.
So one of the difficulties is to manage the time in between work and her involvement as a Paralympic athlete with her sport, and then also the training sessions with the children. And another difficulty is that there is lacking resources and materials to multiplicate those kids clubs in other regions in Togo.
Avant qu'on ne finisse, nous allons tout à l'heure voir la vidéo sur la communauté des femmes leaders, ce que nous faisons en quelques minutes. Mais bien avant de regarder la vidéo, je tiens à dire merci beaucoup à M. Gilles et à toute l'équipe qui a organisé ce webinaire. Et merci aussi à mon mentor qui était toujours derrière moi, M. Tenir, M. Eric Akoko, et aussi au président du Comité national olympique Togo, sans oublier toutes les femmes de la communauté des femmes leaders de l'Afrique francophone. Merci, Léonie.
So before we come to the end, we will watch a video so you can see how these women conferences and how the women leaders work together. But she also would like to thank everyone for the opportunity to share her experiences, especially the people that have invested in her, which is her mentor, Eric, and then the community of the Francophone Africa women leaders, as well as the president of the National Olympic Committee of Togo, as well as Monsieur Gilles. And
I believe you. I trust. Come on. In you. Trust. I trust in you. In you. Oh Lord, say it. Oh Lord, Jehovah, you. I trust. I trust in you. I believe. Say it. Everybody say it. I believe you. I trust. I trust. Come on. In you. You are the God of wonder.
Voilà, merci beaucoup.
Merci Valérie, merci Léonie. Accept disability as an opportunity to see with open eyes the twilight of stereotypes. Thank you for this message, Valérie. Thank you for reminding us that compassion is the roots of spiritual leadership, and also the roots of a transcultural leadership. For me, it's a connection with what I said about Marion's speech about peace. So first, the spiritual aspect of peace, and second, the transcultural aspect of peace. So, a lot of thanks to give us some voices from Togo, Africa. And now I think it's time to give voice to Christina, if it's okay for you, to organize a short discussion. And I think that this discussion is not the end of the webinar. It's mainly the beginning of something else. And thank you, Christina, for your presence and to accept to manage this discussion.
Thank you, Gilles, and thanks to all our speakers for the very, very interesting presentation, and also thank you to share your experience, your life experience. So thanks. Okay, let's wait a few minutes for attendees expressing their questions. As regards possible question to our speakers, I kindly ask everyone to use the chat box. In the meantime, we have a lot of feedback in our chat box, a lot of greetings from from the participant of this webinar. We have people from Poland, Portugal, Armenia, Kenya, a lot around the world, people around the world, yes. And here we have a question, yes, for Marion. The question is, thank you, Marion, for a very interesting topic, also because, in my opinion, brings out a very debatable side topic, the role that women have been given by the society as men's guardian and carriers, often their sons and husbands. In other words, they help men shine in the world instead of shining on their own. What do you think about this? And also, isn't this role as mother carrier of women a stereotype on its own? Thank you.
Thank you, Christina, and thank you for the very deep question. We could actually spend a couple of hours on that question with everybody's input. Isn't the role of mother a stereotype on its own? Well, it really depends, I think, on the individual, how you do that. You know, you are a mother, but you are so many other things. And I always like to see myself more as a mentor to whoever, whether I teach or whether I am at home. Because you have your children with you for 18 years and then they're gone in any case. So you do the best that you can do in terms of values and others to influence them. And it is true that a lot of mothers and grandmothers, especially in the field in Africa where I live, they often sow, but they do not reap. If you understand what I'm saying, but the reaping is it comes from itself, because the youth develops with what you have given them. So it depends how you feel. I'm quite happy to have various roles as a mother, whether I'm an academic, whether I'm a lawyer, I'm a sports person, I'm a coach, I'm an athlete, and I'm a mother. But actually, when I introduce myself, it depends also on the environment, but I am very proud to be a mother and have that kind of stereotype. I wouldn't change it for the world. But it's a very personal question, I think, that other people as mothers might answer very, very differently. But thank you for the question. It's a very reflective one.
Thank you, Mariam. Thank you. And then, if you want to share some question or some remarks, please write in the chat box, or otherwise, if someone prefers to intervene in person, raise your hand. In chat box, very enlightening presentation, Valerie. A lot of message for the presentation of Valerie, and so maybe I would like to share with the speaker a question for their thoughts, because as you know, in SWOST project, the final outcome of our project is to create a self-assessment tool in order to improve the awareness of sport association on the topic of gender equality. So my question is, according your experience in sport, which is the best practice that sport association or federation must implement as a priority in order to tackle the violence based on gender? So I invite the speaker, I leave the floor to the speakers for the round of answers. Who want to start?
Léonie, s'il te plaît, que tu me traduis la question, s'il te plaît.
Ah oui, la question c'est, on voit de l'expérience du sport, comment on peut utiliser le sport pour plus approfondir la paix et quoi serait la pratique de le faire?
Valérie, do you want
Ok,
to?
je vais essayer de donner une approche de réponse.
She will
D'abord,
try to give you an
merci
answer.
beaucoup, Christiana, pour cette belle question.
Thank you for this question.
Nous savons que le sport, en soi-même, c'est un langage universel, premièrement.
We know that sport is truly an universal language.
Et le sport, c'est un instrument très puissant pour pouvoir rassembler beaucoup de gens.
And sport is very powerful, a way to bring many people together.
Si nous prenons ce petit exemple, avec un seul ballon déposé dans un village, nous pouvons avoir tous les enfants autour de ce ballon, même les parents, même les femmes, les hommes, les enfants, tous ensemble.
So for a little example, if you bring one ball to a village, you can have all the children come together that live in this village, maybe even their parents, all of the people that are there.
Même si dans ce village, il y avait des discordes, la division, même avec ce seul ballon, dans l'instant T, tout le monde va oublier qu'il y avait la division et tout le monde va être dans la joie parce qu'il y a le ballon au milieu.
So this is also a way to bring people together, even if there was division or there is division, because sport brings a positive effect. It brings fun, it brings excitement, and people are happy to engage with each other in this framework.
Donc, le sport, c'est vraiment un instrument pour restaurer la paix, pour instaurer la paix, pour instaurer la joie dans le cœur d'une communauté, dans le cœur même des familles.
So it is a way to bring joy and to bring excitement, and a way also to overcome division by impacting families directly.
Voilà, merci.
This would be her answer.
Thank you, Valérie. Thank you so much.
Christina?
Oui, please,
Yeah.
Karine.
Yeah,
the
maybe
floor is yours.
Thank you. Maybe I will jump as well. I totally agree on what Valerie said, and really very inspiring, and how sport can do. And also I just wanted to add also that sport can be a powerful tool, actually, to pass messages, to educate. And this is very well seen in the project in Costa Rica, where they really use football here, as a tool to have the girls also know about their rights, because there's a lot of also not the access to information. So there's a huge domestic violence and early pregnancy. But the thing is also they're very remoted, so they don't really know what is their right, how they can do what they can do. So also here to reduce the domestic violence, to pass the message, to make them aware also of the right they have, and that they have the right to, to live a life free of violence. This is also a powerful tool, and it makes them also being, after the agent within their community, to pass also the message and to educate also within the community about this right. So I would also just add that it's also a powerful tool, to use in terms of education, which is also sometimes the key around all this about gender violence as well.
Thank you, Kari, and congratulations for your project, the project of WEFO Foundation for Children in Costa Rica.
Thank you.
Okay, any other question or curiosities? Okay, The new question is it possible to explain a bit more about the UNESCO chair? What has to be done and what is needed to accomplish the goals behind? Who can contribute and how? Please, Marion.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the question. And I just wanted to comment on both Karine and Valerie and it's amazing projects and the community projects in the Global South that we so much need and more often even show them on international platforms. I just wanted to also say that people always said, and even Nelson Mandela said, sport has the power to change the world. There's the power to inspire as little else can. But it's actually the people. It's not the sport itself. It's the people that use the tool of sport, such as Valerie on a daily basis and people on a daily basis. So we as sports people, we have like a suitcase with all the tools and we use them as we go along. And it's often forgotten actually that the people that do that on a voluntary basis. Most of the sport on grassroots level is done by volunteers, not by high-paying officials. And so it's the people that do sport that change the world, using the medium of sport to change the world. And yeah, sometimes I wish we would get that more out there. We put those stories more out there because they are really important, because a lot of them are done by women. In addition to what we said beforehand in children and so on. UNESCO chair. The UNESCO chair is a position at a university. So in every country, university professors or researchers can apply to become a UNESCO chair. It's in different fields: food security, education, children. Any kind of focus areas that you have, you can apply via your country office, UNESCO, to become a chair, which means you are a leader with a team in that particular field. It's a research field or it's a community outreach and a teaching field. The importance for what we have in terms of the UNESCO chair for sport, development and peace and Olympic education, that's a long title, that our chair has is that it's the first chair in Africa on sport. So other areas in the world have UNESCO chairs in physical education, in social inclusion, in disability, in sport, but the continent of Africa never had a UNESCO chair in sport. So what the aim is actually is to bring young researchers in Africa more out, to create a research hub of people from different countries who have an interest in sport development and peace and Olympic education. So if it's in Togo, or if it's in Nigeria or Kenya, if there are young people who would like to do more research, more teaching, more community engagement in sport development, peace or Olympic education, please contact us, because we're trying to create networks so that people can support each other. So that's the first, to create a hub, because you have that in other countries in Europe, you have it in the Americas, you have it in Canada and the UK. When I go to conferences about Casta Semenya, then I hear people from Italy, people from Norway, people from England speaking about Casta Semenya, but I do not see any African young researcher or a teacher speaking about Casta Semenya. She is African. So that's the first. Then the second is to do a mapping exercise of what exists in different countries. Like if I go to Italy, I buy a guide that tells me where can I sleep, what do I look, the sites, where do I eat, who do I meet. If I want to do that in sport, we don't have that. So if I visit Togo, I now know Valerie, and I can text her and I say, Valerie, what's the main sports in Togo? Who is the president of your NOC? Do you have peace in sport? What is the gender policy? Do you have a sports policy in Togo? What are the main Olympic sports? And so on and so on. We do not have a report or a document that gives us some facts and figures also of what is happening in that country, which makes it very difficult to work with each other. So what we're doing is a country mapping. We have done that with UNESCO in 2013 with 10 countries, and we will update that report with other countries. And we look at researchers in every country to actually communicate with us, and then we put that together. So that's the second project. A third project is the Umama project that I spoke about in terms of the mothers and grandmothers. And then we have a Campus at Peace, Imagine Campus at Peace project. So at the different universities, we have problems in South Africa with our universities in terms of violence on campus, even cheating in tests and exams. Yeah, so we trying to establish a campus at peace and do more in terms of the young students, because those students that we have at university will be our leaders of tomorrow. They will do their masters and PhDs and go out there and become hopefully busy in leadership positions. So we're looking at what are possibilities to have a more peaceful campus at different universities as well. So yeah, these are just 3 or 4 of the activities, but it is very much university-based, research, community engagement, teaching. But if people have that interest in SDP, Sport Development Peace, or want to support a project or get involved in a project, please send us a mail, and then we can see how we put you also in a group. We have a youth network, for example, that is very active, where the young people can take part. That youth in South Africa is up to 35. So if you are between 18 and 35, I would link you with Redine. She's our youth network coordinator. But important is to support each other and get each other out there. And those stories that we heard from Valerie and Corinne and others, really that we have them on platforms such as webinars, seminars, conferences before the Olympics, and so on. Yeah, but I can talk more as you can hear about that. But if you want more information, please don't hesitate. My email is very easy. It's Marion Cape Town. So it's my name and my city. Marion Cape Town at gmail.com. That's the easiest. I always say I was the first Marion in Cape Town. So yeah, that's me. And that's a bit about the UNESCO chair. And if you have any other focus areas, if you're interested in any field in early childhood education, in gender violence and disability, and you're interested in the UNESCO chair, and you are linked to a university, then your university can apply for a UNESCO chair.
Christina, if you want, we can
Thank
finish.
you, Marion. Yes, absolutely.
Just a conclusion to remember that this webinar is a springboard for a journey that will give us the opportunity to discover how we be stronger together between America, Europe, Africa, Asia, and so on. And it will be a good opportunity to be witness of the together of the twilight of stereotypes. And so I invite you to keep in touch with SWOT's program, and to be aware that SWOT's program will be develop some articulation, as Marion told. So if you agree, we keep in touch together, and we give you some news from SWOT's program, and to see how we can exchange similar approach and to combine what we are doing in South Africa, in Togo, in Europe, in Italy, in Switzerland, and so on. And just to finish, to thank all the teams of SWOT's program coming from support by Erasmus Plus program. And just if Giovanni want to say what will be the next meeting, if you want.
Thank you, Gilles. I have posted right now in the chat my satisfaction for this incredible webinar. The quality, it's really outstanding, thanks to the speakers and to the colleagues like you, Alessandro, Cristina, Urs, and the other colleagues who have contributed to organize this fantastic meeting. I was really feeling during the presentations the powerful of these ladies and the words that they were transmitting us. The information really were are effective because you can understand how they act on ground and how we are very much connected with the values and the vision they have. So it's incredible to discover how all over the world we have the same feelings and we look for the same results. So Gilles, I think you have set an incredible webinar, and I would recommend to the participants and to the eminent speakers if they can join online, because I think they are not on site, but if they could join the 26th afternoon, we have this second, the real big step with the final conference of the SWOST project. So sport without stereotypes, it's and gender discrimination and all the values that you have brought to our attention. So it's important to be united, to stay together and to continue to collaborate. So thank you for inviting us to contact you, Marion, and for sure we will also extend this invitation with your wishes to all our network. So 26th afternoon, 3 o'clock chat time, we will have the final conference and we will be online like today, so possible to interact also from other countries. I have no anything to add about my feelings. I think that you understand how I am excited about this result, Gilles, but a recommendation to continue to work together and to stay in contact, because we will take other initiatives, and these are just some step forward and not the end of a drive, but probably the beginning of a new collaboration for other initiatives for the next year. Thank you very much to everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Giovanni. Thank you, Cristina. Thank you, Alessandro. Thank you, Marion. Thank you, Leonie. Thank you, Valérie. And thank you, Carme. And thank you, UEFA Foundation. As it's 2:30, I propose you to finish this webinar, but don't worry, it's not the end of something. It's the beginning of a new chapter of the Twilight of Stereotypes. I'm often optimistic, and so I will be enjoyed to meet you for next meeting. So 26th September with Marion, we have a huge conference in 21 September. But you exchange this information of the website of SWOST program. Don't see you in a few minutes, in a few days, in a few months, in a few years, as you want, and have a nice afternoon in Europe, and a nice morning in Costa Rica, because I think in Costa Rica it will be the beginning of the day. So bye-bye to each.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Gilles, for making that possible in team. Bye.
Yeah,
bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, Maria.
Bye.
Ciao, Julienne. Bye-bye.
Ciao, how are you?
Ciao.
Merci
Ciao.
beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. C'était très, très intéressant. Vraiment. De très,
Merci.
très haute
Merci,
qualité.
Bye, Valérie.
Oui.
Merci.